Hi, so this is my review of the book The Doubter's Creed by Dr. Randal Rauser. If you didn't see the review with his views, topics, commentaries, please watch it. It's in the description, but you'll not have to into this review. I may reference few things about it, but they should not change my review of the book. In general, I think if you are interested about the topic of faith and you have doubts, or you are an unbeliever, or you have to discuss with someone who has doubts or he's an unbeliever, this is a very good starting point book. This is also not necessarily answering to all your questions or will solve all of your issues, but at least I think it's a good, reasonable way to frame the discussion, and even to have some statement creeds. You can agree with someone that is unbeliever or atheist. I may even agree with the creed himself itself, atheist form, but I'll have a one star after this. We didn't have time to reach into the live, but just to say, the book I think is extraordinary in this field. But on the other hand, I think there will be some parts which will not fulfill everyone's needs. The other part which I want to be very clear about this book, at least for me, some parts looked very useful for the doubter. I think he himself finds it, and I started the interview exactly with that part. And basically, that I could say I have doubts, but they will feel very different from the category of the doubts he put it in the book. And that was that the creeds which people doubt about, they are so different. So he talks more about the Nicene Creed, the Apostles' Creed, and so on, which is very specific if you are not a believer strong enough to know what they mean, and that's fine. But what I want to say, that even I was a strong Baptist believer, this is how I started. I didn't care what the Nicene Creed is, what the Apostles' Creed is, as a Baptist. And what it felt to me, and I'm not saying that there should be a second edition, that it should be addressed in a different case. It looked to me that some people would find some nuances, at least when I read it, quite pedantic. If I would be a Baptist at the age of, let's say, of 25 years, like 15 years ago, 25, 24 years, or 26 years. Why? It was simply I wouldn't care if I would follow or not strictly the Nicene Creed or the Apostles' Creed or whatever, because I didn't know them and they were so important. I didn't want to be a pastor. I didn't care about all the nuances, like in general. And this could feel like some paragraphs or even subsections of the chapter quite odd. Like, would I care that this corporate definition of Christianity, would I match or not? We will not agree or disagree when I would meet another Baptist. Do you agree with this Nicene Creed or uh, Apostles' Creed? Even though probably if you ask every question what the creed would say, we would agree. And even if we will not agree on one or 2 points, we will not say, hey, you are not a Christian, you still believe the Bible is without mistakes or a good guide to follow. So this was one part which I found it, at least myself as an ex-Baptist, uh, not, I would say, not reflecting on me. But on the other hand, I am sure that there are many Baptists where he works with, like in seminary, that they care a lot about these creeds. I mean, the Apostolic Creed or Nicene Creed. The other part, which to me, I will say, and he said it in the interview, but I think this is a very minor point, but probably he knows what I'm talking about. But he quoted to Timothy, to Timothy, and he said he's written by Paul. Today I will not agree with this statement, but I think this is basically not so substantial, but even that part with God breathed or inspired and so on, I think he is right. But to me, it looked like um, he justifies some parts because it's written by Paul. And this is a quite conservative take, but I would say that he could use another takes, and I heard it even from more conservative ones. Like in general, we know the Bible has so many problems, and there was Daniel Wallace, who is a very known conservative Baptist person who works a lot with manuscripts, and he said you can't have the whatever correct Bible because the translation manuscripts differs in so many ways. Even I think it's more than 10% word difference between the new KJV and the old KJV because we how we reward everything, and this is in English language. And I know that Randall likes NIV, and I personally consider it a goodish translation, but it's not top of my list. But anyway, it's a fine, it's a go-to translation which I would use. And there will be one last part which I will comment later, which I think it's in a way it's a weakness of the book. But going that, let's take the part which I strongly agree with Randall. So on the atheist description in particular, you could see why many people are not satisfied by apologetics. This is how he approaches apologetics and why the aggressive debative style of apologetics he finds them objectionable, and I personally think the same, especially when the people they really have doubts or unbelief. And he takes also a very charitable view about the atheists themselves, their nuances, the types of them. Also, he definitely defines and sees what I would say also myself, like unsophisticated atheists, like there are many unsophisticated Christians, and you should split them aside from more intellectual, educated atheists, and or philosophers, or moral ontologists, or meta-atheists, and so on. So, and it's the same with the unbeliefs. Okay, so given that, let me say some parts which I didn't have time to talk into the live, and I still see them quite important, and some of them, just to be very sure, even if we have time, we kind of didn't agree, we'll talk about that, so I would probably not even put them, but I want to put them here in the live, not because I want to talk when he could not define. Please, Randall, if you watch, I'll give to him the link um, privately, but only if he has time. You can answer to these topics if you think I misrepresented you. That's not my point. So the first part is that when I was a strong Baptist, and this I kind of started the discussion, is that I personally think that the creeds do not matter to be a Christian. And I know that this kind of be the purpose of the book, and maybe we would even agree with it, but we didn't get there, we didn't have time. And what I mean by that is that when I was a Baptist, I would not know the creeds. And if you'll ask me, say to me the creed, and maybe when he will ask me question by question, I would say, no, this I will not believe, this I will not believe. Would I not be a Christian at that moment? Because right now, when I was reflecting, I would say, I will not believe this, that. I would say no. So to me, I'm saying excluding you say something very extraordinary, like God, it's an alien, or something like that, which I think even most liberal Baptists, which I could name myself, we will not be unchristian. I would still care about doing gospel preaching, giving flyers on the things like that. I would do them at least to some extent. I was to villages talking with people. Would I not be a Christian because I don't have that specific atonement theology? Probably not an Orthodox, I would grant this point, but still I would say reasonably I'm a Christian. The other part which it looked to me is like I understood, at least in a seminary, the Apostles' Creed would be uh, a thing to be accepted. And I personally think that some people, when will hear some wording, they will I'm not comfortable with it. Like more modern takers of uh, the, let's say, scientific minded, but definitely Christians. Like I'm reading right now the Apostles' Creed. That's I'm looking on the side. Would you say that there is a creator of heaven and earth? And many people will say heaven. It's really that uh, globe, solid globe, firmament that splits the waters above from the ground. And this is definitely an antiquity view. And I'll say this, I will disagree. Do I believe in the Holy Catholic Church? Sounds very alien to me as a Baptist, at least as we isolated the Romanian Baptist from the traditional ones. And again, I'm not saying that I will not believe into the resurrection of the body. I would likely would, but at least some words would look kind of doubting, even not fully denying them. And this is making to me at least to doubt right now as an atheist the idea that creeds make you a Christian. I would say the Eucharist makes you a Christian. Baptism, depending if you have a take that baptism saves or it's related to that, and the love your neighbor. I would say this kind of make you a Christian, and maybe to know something about the Bible and the Jesus mission, and obviously crucifixion. But I'm saying like statements. If you deny Eucharist, if you deny loving your neighbor, it's quite hard to say you are a Christian. And some people say, hey, I think baptism is nothing. Maybe you can say you are not a Christian. So, and there is not a creed like that, obviously. But taking that as an aside, the last weakness which I could see myself, and I have to go there, but we discussed on the, but we didn't have time to agree. There is another book which tries to solve this issue, but it has a very different take. And basically, how it starts, in fact, it dismantles the idea of the creed. And I'm not saying this is the way to solve that debate, but I would assume there are many, not I'm assuming, I know there are many differences how the late Spong would relate with the inspiration of the Bible, the problems of the Bible, and so on. But just to be very clear, both Spong and Randall, they accept there are very atrocious things in the Bible, and we don't have to sugarcoat them. And this one really talks about how to build a new creed in the 21st century. And I think Randall does the same, but does a very conservative take. Conservative in quotes, let me be very clear. I would grant he's fully progressive, as but it's a very different progressive of Spong. But when you read the creed, the atheist creed, for example, or even the doubter's creed, is that uh, the at least the atheist creed would definitely fit into a Spong's take, and the Apostles' Creed, if you take one or two things out of it, maybe the born of a virgin and some misunderstanding what Holy Spirit means, and assume that it's quite Unitarian in the view, typically the Spongian view, you kind of get on the same creeds, at least in my understanding of both Spongov and Randall. And again, I'm not here to be pedantic on words, just to be very clear, but it can look, at least from the side, that it looks to me that is somewhat maybe not bold enough or not, uh, and I'm sure that he wants Randall to be inclusive, to have kind of common ground about the goodness of Jesus, which I think Christians should take it deeply into account. And that's the part which I think it looks to me a bit weaker if you take it into the context of the Spong book. And weaker, it's at least for people who are, let's say, very liberally minded Christians, or how to name it, progressive, but different style of progressive that Mr. Randall is. But otherwise, the book I would say it's very good. uh, I deeply recommend it, at least as a starting talk point. And thank you. Please uh, read the book, enjoy it, follow Randall if you like him, and see you next time. Bye bye.